Hello everyone, this is Dashcam Owners Australia. Today I'm going to be showing you the basics of installing a camera in your car. Now the first thing we're going to look at today is the positioning of the camera. In my eyes, the ideal place to mount a camera is going to be on the left of your rear view mirror in a position at the top of the windscreen. So when it's mounted there, ideally it will be out of the driver's view. Now most states in Australia do have some sort of legislation that says your windscreen must be clear or you can't have any obstructions to your view. It's something along those lines in most states, so that's why I suggest it goes there. It's out of sight, it's out of mind. First thing you need to consider about mounting your camera is where it's going to be and what it's going to see on a rainy day. Now if you mount your camera in a position where it's not in the view of the wipers, when it rains, all you're going to see is a bunch of water droplets on your window. So the easiest way to test this, just give the wipers a quick squirt, and you'll see what area of the windscreen the wipers cover. Now where I'll be mounting the camera in this car is just here. It's just in the view of the wipers, if you can see that. So it means on a rainy day you're still going to have clear vision and the camera's not being wasted. Now the second thing you need to consider is the angle of the camera. I see a lot of videos where we've got cameras that are capturing about 70% sky. Now the problem with that is it causes the camera to focus more on the sky and it gives you bad lighting exposure. My ideal suggestion here is when you mount your camera, it can take a bit of back and forth if your camera doesn't have a screen, but ideally you want to be able to see the very start of your bonnet on film. So from the top of the bonnet where the wipers are, you should be able to just see that at the bottom of your video footage. That's about the ideal spot in my opinion. You're going to get a good side to side wide angle there, and it's going to focus more on the road and the cars in front of you rather than the sky, so you'll get better footage out of it. The next thing you need to consider is how you're going to be powering your camera. If your vehicle has a 12 volt socket and that's what you're happy to use for the camera, then things are fairly simple. If you want a totally hidden installation, then it's going to involve soldering, adding another 12 volt socket somewhere along the line. One thing to be aware of is to never hardwire a camera directly to power. Dash cameras run off 5 volts, not 12, so they always have a little inverter in their cigarette plugs which converts the power source down to 5 volts. So if you go connecting it directly to a 12 volt supply, you're going to fry the camera. Now in this car, I'll be connecting it straight to the power socket, which is just in there. Now it's going to be a little bit of cable that's going to be visible when I do this installation, but for the main part, most people that's probably not going to be an issue. You can still hide over 90% of the wiring under trim, and you get a fairly clean installation in doing so. Now as you can see, I've plugged the charger in there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to run the cable down under this trim and up here, or I'm going to go up under the dash here. I've already got a cable tied up under here, and the rest I'll be able to tuck around inside that trim. As you can see, I've now done that, and it's fairly hidden. That's going to be the only piece of exposed wire once this job is done. Now in most cars it's really quite easy to run the wiring. Most trim like this you can easily just push wiring up into, and you can always run a few cable ties up along the bottom there. Keeps it nice and hidden out of the way. Now for the next part, I'm going to run this cable up inside that door rubber. I'm going to go up the A-pillar here, under this trim, then across the top of the window there, and down into the camera. Now one thing on this vehicle which you need to check is that if your vehicle is fitted with a side impact airbag on the A-pillar, do not go jamming anything into there to get the trim off. There is a small risk, it's very unlikely, but I don't want to be responsible for an airbag going off in someone's face. They hurt a lot. Now, you may not be confident in doing this yourself. You think, oh, pulling trim apart seems a bit sort of dodgy, I don't want to break stuff. On most cars, it's really not difficult. There's very minimal risk. You just got to be a bit careful in doing so. You know, don't go pulling and snapping any pieces of trim. Check if there's screws first or anything that you need to undo. It really does differ from car to car. But in this case, all I'm going to do is loosen off this rubber door trim. It's very easy to do. Essentially, it just comes loose and it'll slide straight back over where it was. Now I'm just going to run this cable up inside the trim gap that you can see there, basically all the way to the very top of the pillar until I reach the carpeted area there. Alright, there you have it. The rubber trim's back on. The cable's hidden behind it right until the top here, where I've just got it sitting at the back of that pillar trim. Now the only part left to do is to run that basically up under the head lining and across to the camera. Now, one thing I should mention is if you have a lot of cable left over, it's a lot easier to tuck excess cable into the headliner, in my opinion, than it is to try and fit it under trim down here. So that's why I always start from the bottom, work your way to the top. But it really doesn't matter which way you do it. Now, as you can see, I've tucked it up in there. You can see a tiny little bit of cable there, just where I couldn't quite get under that trim. I don't want to push it under there too much, but that's good enough for my liking. It's tucked up under the head lining. Very easy to do in most cars. You can actually get a finger under there and push the cable up there if you need to be. And there we go, straight into the camera. And we're ready to go the second the power turns on.